Husker Radio Network is on the air. It's time for Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. Also brought to you in part by Midwest Ford and your Midwest Ford dealers. After a blowout win in Week 2 against Akron, the Huskers hosted Houston Christian on a sweltering day in Memorial Stadium. A huge favorite once again, Nebraska wasted little time putting a hurting on the visitors.
Takes a snap, holds it out on a play fake. Quick hitch near right, caught by Corney, and the numbers at the 10, at the 5, races to the pylon. Is he in? Touchdown, Huskers! Shotgun snap to Raiola, play fake, slant over the middle, caught by Key. There he goes, turbo button, touchdown, Dane Key. 39 yards. We're out of the gun. Paralysis snap, play action, fake. Backside pressure comes, ball stripped. It's picked up. Winery at the 20, 15, 10, 5. Scoop and score.
NU raced out to a 38-0 lead at halftime. Most of the starters sat out the second half, but that didn't stop the Big Red from continuing to roll.
Latif out of the gun. Takes a snap from the 6. Back to pass. Latif all day to throw. Now moves out to his left. Latif races to the 10 at the 5. He's in. Touchdown, TJ Latif. His second career rushing score. He said, I'll do it myself. 44-0 Huskers. Ball on the 38 of the Huskers. Left to right. Carter Nelson in motion right to left. Snap from under center, Latif. Deep drop. Has all day to throw. Launches deep downfield. Mills has got it. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Cortez Mills. First career touchdown on a bomb down the middle of the field. 58-7 Huskers.
The route was on, and the Huskers once again emptied their bench en route to a 59-7 victory, remaining perfect at 3-0.
All you can do is measure yourself against, where you are and the standards that you have. I think we're obviously a significantly better team than we have been. We have a long way to go, but to be 3-0 and end up playing a Power 4 team and dominate the two teams we're supposed to dominate, that's all I can ask of the guys.
With non-conference play in the rearview mirror, Nebraska opens the Big Ten slate with a classic opponent today, the Michigan Wolverines.
You try not to, think about the past too much going into a week like this because it's a whole different team. I mean, even from when we played them 2 years ago, not many of those guys are still there. So it's important to, just play the guy across from you, just dive into what he does every single play.
From a global perspective, as you represent the university in the ways in which you do, I want them to see excitement. I want them to see an amazing fan base. I want them to see a rocking stadium. I want them to see a state united behind a team. This is why you came to Nebraska, to play these games. I just personally believe at the University of Nebraska, every game is a big game because we're playing in it. But the guys, by the way that they've worked, have enabled us to have this moment, so I'm excited for it.
Now, here's your host, Ben McLaughlin.
When schedules are released, the first thing we do as Husker fans is go find what we call the helmet games. And boy, is there not a better one than what you're going to see today. The excitement in the capital city all week for Nebraska and Michigan. Drive it into the stadium more than 7 hours before kickoff. Husker fans not only here but around the country are ready for this one. Nebraska and Michigan, a matchup that's been circled on the schedule for months, is finally upon us here in the capital city in Lincoln, Nebraska. Welcome to another edition of our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Ben McLaughlin joined as always by Husker national champion. Going to be reignited with some of his teammates today. Our color analyst, Damon Benning. A little different feel to this one, DB.
Yeah, it's been intense all week, almost from the jump, right? Just a lot shorter answers, a lot more pace in the old steps walked. It's fairly deliberate this week, and I kind of like it. It's a big game week.
It really kind of started in the press conference following Houston Christian, right? You kind of got the sense that sights were on the maize and the blue rather quickly because of, one, how the game went last week, but also knowing what kind of test is in front of Nebraska today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's only so much you can do with the nameless, faceless opponent approach. I love it because it keeps you dialed in the short term. But when game day hits, you know full well who's coming to town, and it's the maize and blue, and I think Nebraska's going to be ready.
I thought Coach Rule did a really good job this week in front of the media, sticking with the consistency of tone and message that we've heard from him really forever, but maybe even more so this year. But he was also honest in saying that, the Colorado game last year, there's been certain moments, the Wisconsin game when Nebraska got bowl eligible, that the environment, right, the football part is consistent, but the other things around the game are certainly going to be more, and it's undoubtedly going to be more today. CBS is in town. Obviously, the reunion with the 95 national champs on the heels of an electric performance from Bud Crawford last week. There's a little bit more in the air and a little more buzz, and you're just lying to yourself if you're denying that part or you're ignoring that part.
Yeah, no, I almost got the weather to cooperate too, right? It's a little overcast.
You wanted it. You called it last week.
I wanted a little overcast, a few sprinkles just to bring some real ambiance to today. But I tell you, you hit the nail on the head with potential people in the building and the electricity. 2:30 kick, I think it's the perfect time. The guys don't have to wait too long. You can still stay on your body clock schedule, and you get the fans a chance to get nice and lathered up. The interstate, in my opinion, for a 2:30 kick leaving at 9 was extremely, probably, 8:50. It's only a 35-minute drive. I'm thinking it's a lot of people on the interstate from my vantage point. So I think people are ready, B-Mac.
And you've got two of the top 10 winningest college football programs in the history of the sport. In a day and age in college athletics when conferences are expanding, non-conference schedules are kind of falling by the wayside in large degree. You are seeing conference schedules expand. You don't really see matchups like this too often. And when you do, you want to embrace everything to come with it. We've talked about that a little bit already, but something about Nebraska and Michigan and the history and the pageantry of these programs. I mean, obviously today records are good with both sides and Michigan being ranked, but even when they're not good, you put these two on a pedestal when it comes to what these programs have meant for college football over the last close to 100 years.
Yeah, and on a day that's got a pretty good slate of games with some top 25 matchups, and you got 16 versus 17. You've got, it's not ranked on ranked, but you got Miami and Florida tonight. There's just a lot of games on the slate today that I think it's not necessarily prove it, but it does give you another data point in terms of kind of where teams are slotted early in this 2025 season.
Yeah, you used an interesting phrase there, data point, because I think to a certain degree, when you apply that to Nebraska, the 3-0 start, getting the win over Cincinnati early, I think started the positive momentum, took care of business the way that you should have against Akron and against HCU. But I think to a lot of eyes around the country, this is the litmus test for Nebraska, is how you stand up. I think maybe opinions on this game are going to differ within our walls of our state compared to nationally, but when you hear that word test and data point, where does that apply to Nebraska today?
Yeah, I think it's, they're just laying the groundwork. And I think for them, you're passing each week. You got through the opener. It was a Power 4 opponent. You had to knock that off the list, right? You hadn't won one against a Power 4 opponent since 03, check. You showed some emotional maturity in back-to-back weeks with Akron and Houston Christian. You handled your business. You continued to develop depth. This week, it's a top 25 program. It's a Big Ten opener, and it's one in which you want to see right where you're at to pitch you or put it up against where you think you might stack up in the conference. I get it. It's early. But that middle pack, if you concede in any form, right, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, the next 5, 6, I mean, it could be a virtual toss-up. Is it Illinois? Is it Indiana? They'll figure that out today. Nebraska, Michigan knocking on the door there We'll figure that out today. USC's got Michigan State tonight. So, I mean, there's just lots of little data points, but I think for Nebraska, in the grand scheme of things of where they are, they'll see just how much they've grown.
I've been asked more this week than any week I can remember. What do you think? How's this going to go? Is Nebraska going to win? Who do you like? You know, those types of questions this week. And, you know, players were feeling that to a certain degree of, you know, how do we approach this week competitively on the practice field, but also within the media. What was your take on how the guys put those two things together, the competitiveness and what they needed to do during practice, but also, you know, the amount of focus that you heard from the team this week?
Yeah, I like the brevity in the answers. You know, you kind of get a vibe from their body language and how they attacked the podium, and it was concise, it was clear, there was consistency in the message. And there are some guys that went as far to talk about the preparation this week of practice as elite. So they seem to be pretty dialed in. Now, the key is the preparation is kind of it's where you have to make deposits, right? You're doing some work, you're building up some equity, you get to make deposits. The game is where you actually get to make withdrawals. And you'll see how much money you get to spend based on how many deposits you made during the week. And so I think Nebraska will know that early. This should be a 4-quarter game, and we'll see how much spending they get to do.
It's going to be physical today,
yeah.
and this is what
No
you
question.
sign up for. There's going to be some ice bags on bodies after this one. How much does it help for Nebraska to have the workload on their starters taken off the last 2 weeks coming into this one?
Yeah, I think it's huge, and I think Nebraska's confidently tried to play the long game all season long. Develop depth early, assume you're playing more than 12 games. You're still taking it one at a time, but the big picture is we need as many bodies as possible, and they're going to lay it on the line. They know they got a bye week next week, and I think you'll see them empty the clip today, for lack of a better term, in terms of the physicality that they want to play with. They know what Michigan historically brings to the table when it comes to playing Big Ten football. And Nebraska gets another chance to see right where they're at in that measuring stick and just how physical they can be. Let's not kid ourselves. They hear the rumblings. Can they stop the run? And, you know, where the run rankings and what Michigan wants to do. And, I mean, is this the Michigan of old? And listen, they know. And they'll be well prepared. It'll be put up or shut up time for these guys.
And it's not just on our sideline. I think Michigan fans are kind of
same thing,
saying
right?
the same exact thing, right? Granted, they have had a big test on the road with Oklahoma.
And they didn't look good in that test,
Exactly,
right? So they're chomping at the bit.
Yep. So you compare that to Nebraska's road to today. What type of lessons, and we'll talk more schematics and kind of what we've seen from Michigan a little later on, but their mental coming into this game, if you had to guess based on, you know, their performances to this point and what you're hearing from the Michigan camp, where do you think they are coming into this one with Nebraska?
We talked to a lot of guys close to them this week, and there's two things I think that are critical. Number one, the interior of that offensive line, guard, center guard. You're playing without your most experienced and arguably your best offensive lineman. You get one back, but you've gotten younger in an already young offensive line up front. So there are those questions for them. What are we going to do at the left tackle spot? Defensively, I think the fan base and folks close to that program would have expected them to be a little more dynamic in terms of wreaking those havoc plays. So that's something I think they want to see from this defensive line as well. If you want to see how far this game's going to go, at least initially, you can look right near close to the ball, offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah, this one, I think this game has a lot of layers to it. And it probably me making it more complicated than it needs to be. But, I mean, I've heard the same thing that you heard. You know, is it as simple as Nebraska stopping the run? Everyone's going to point to the two quarterbacks and the plays that they're able to make with their arms, but more importantly, their feet, at least on Michigan's sideline. There's a lot of ways to break this one down, but I think handling, you mentioned emotional maturity, getting through HCU, little bit different in that test, but I think it might even still hold up a little bit of how they handled this week. Now, once the bullets are flying and the pads are popping, you're not thinking of that. But to get yourself in the right state of mental, to get to be ready to go, I've heard the word focus and dialed in a lot this week from not just you and everybody else, but a lot of the people that are around the team. It seems like there isn't a lot of concern with Nebraska meeting that early in this game.
Yeah, and I kind of like that, right? I think Nebraska's kind of starting to really take on Coach Rule's personality from a competitive toughness, line it up and play it. There's that genuine, I think, authentic belief. Now, we'll see how that manifests itself. They still got to go out and play some ball, BMAC, and I think we're all well aware of that. But, quietly, I think they're looking at this game as a chance for validation. And that's different when you want verification. They're not trying to see, are we good enough? They want to see just how good they are. And that subtle degree in terms of thought process can make all the difference in the world when you're trying to develop into being a winning program.
What you're saying is something that in my own mind, I've kind of been putting the pieces together before today, and it's something that this program hasn't seen in a long time, and I think to a certain degree it's why fans are nervous for today because of everything that they've seen. But I think something this team's starting to have, and it has to come from somewhere other than just reaching for something that's not there, but it's belief in what the groundwork is being laid in your program, and that's belief. And I feel like this team is finally starting to have it because of not only Matt Rule, but because of the observations of the work that not just they're putting in, but their teammates, and the accountability is starting to be there. And we've always said, Damon, and today could be the validation of that, but if that belief is there, this is a scary bunch.
Yeah, and I just think for their own, process and their own data point, I don't remember the last time I felt like players truly internally look forward to a pretty even top 25 matchup. I mean, Vegas thinks Nebraska's got a good shot. It's a virtual coin flip, and they're not coming in as these massive underdogs or under this shroud of doubt or this cloud of are we there yet? I think this one is just, let's just see how far we've come, and that's the part that I like. Yeah,
I think that it's a subtle sentence that you finish with there, but I think it's exactly right. Let's just see.
Yeah.
And I think this team to this point under their head coach has earned that right. And so, the apathy that we've felt as fans going back since the days prior to the Big Ten, it feels like, I understand it, but also these aren't those same players. This isn't the same set of circumstances. And so exactly what you said. And I feel like that's been my answer a lot to that question this week is we'll see, or let's just see, because I think they've earned that. Whether they win today or not, we got to give this team the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and I think, and they got to cut themselves some slack, right? They're not carrying the burdens of whatever was or wasn't done before in the past. They're in the here, the now, and they're about as present as it's going to get. In about 3.5, 4 hours, however far we are away from this bad boy, I can't do the math. I need you to count that for me, as like most things. They'll get a chance to sort that out.
By the way, why is it that why am I in charge of counting? Anybody that knows me knows that is a big mistake.
You're very quick with the dry erase board and the marker, and I can read your tabs and tick marks now, and I can do it quick. And
you're catching on. Yeah.
It helps me out that you can do shorthand, so occasionally I just need a little help.
How fun is this, though?
It is.
Coming into the stadium today, I'm going to be honest.
It smelled fantastic. I'm a big smell guy, right? It smells like football, and I love it.
It felt a little bit that way this morning, too. A little crisp in the air.
It's the earliest I've seen fans from the opposing team, right?
Yeah.
We barely saw. We had to hunt for them in Arrowhead. And obviously, Akron and Houston Christian weren't traveling well. Man, there's a lot of maize and blue out here this morning early, and I don't know if I like that too much, but it is what it is. They'll travel, too.
We talk about being ready to meet the moment early. The Husker fans are. I mean,
Yeah, it's a little different.
It was a bit of a ghost
than
town.
A week ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, making this walk, I was beginning to wonder if I showed up on the right day.
Yeah.
Granted, it was 5:30 in the morning when I showed up here last
about
week.
200 degrees by then, too, man.
Yeah.
It was a scorcher, but I did feel like, didn't you feel like the energy was pretty good relative to what the game situation was last week?
Again, and I feel like it's just what we were talking about. This team's earned that a little bit. And
there's definite buzz.
Yeah, and you better believe this stadium is going to be turned up a few decibels today. The Husker fans have been kind of salivating for an opportunity like this, and it's going to be rocking in there today. But, we always talk about how special, the 7 or 8 games that we get, 7 or 8 Saturdays in this stadium every year. The ones like this, the 2, 3, or 4 that you get like this a year, there's a little fire in the belly, driving. The playlist is running a little hot for a lot of folks driving to the stadium.
Yeah,
today.
100%, man. The me, I'm a big music guy. It sets the tone, and I'm just telling you.
You're leaving the fray alone today, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We, today we went with, ironically, we went with a little, we had a little Kendrick, we had a little Drake, a little Charlie on a Friday. I think we touched a little Morgan Wallen. Making myself vulnerable here. Don't judge.
I didn't say a word.
What else? A little SZA we had. And
you're all over the shop.
Yeah. So I have. It's got a weird title. It's called Random Vibe. That's my library name. Because it.
That's kind of you, though.
It really
is. Anybody that knows you, that's like kind of you.
Your Random Vibes, yeah. You're right. Right about that.
People are excited. I'm excited. Everybody in this room's excited. Not a lot of nonverbals happening with the crew in here, but I can just tell by the looks on their faces that they're ready to go.
I know, and I didn't want to be Denny Downer, right? I'm usually the guy that's got all the jokes and pretty loosey-goosey. And, I walked in, there's like 37 people in here. It's 204 degrees, and I'm thinking, this adds to the intensity, but I'm back to lightening up. It's you and I together again with our man JH.
Just you and I and a couple microphones, which,
just you and
depending on who you ask, is a good or a bad idea. But hey, where we're supposed to be.
Are you going to be Crystal Gale or am I going to be Eddie Rabbit, or how are we doing the whole just you and I thing?
See, now you're just digging into you're getting into your bag.
All right, too early, man. That's a Coatney reference. He's the only one old enough. Although Russ, I bet he could dabble in a little Eddie Rabbit.
Did he get you the thumbs up over there?
He gave me the nod.
Good.
The old Super Russ nod.
We're off and rolling, the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. If you haven't turned us off after the last 2 minutes, we appreciate it. We have you for the next hour and a half before we hand things over to Kyle Crookson. Countdown to kickoff. Big one today, folks, here in the capital city, Nebraska and Michigan. Hey, Husker fans, some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Visit allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. We got plenty more of the show coming up.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app. Whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game, Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Nebraska companies know that treating people like family is good business. At Medica, protecting families is our specialty. We care for your employees by offering affordable health plans with the benefits they need and the local doctors they trust. And we treat everyone on your team as a person, not a number. After all, that's how you do business too. With Medica, you're not just covered, you're cared for. Find out more at medica.com.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip?
As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification on the Huskers Radio Network. You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show, covering Husker Nation and beyond. Call on Dakota Mac to discuss all your ag financing needs. Learn more at dakotamac.com. Ben McLaughlin alongside Damon Benning. Not too much to dissect from last week because of the circumstances of how that thing unfolded. I think the most important thing, and you and I talked about it really all last week, was how Nebraska was able to weather the storm early in that game. Would they be ready to go? All concerns were put to bed rather quickly in that one.
Yeah, I told you, so I got to stick to it, right? If Nebraska came out and stayed on the gas and was pretty dialed in, that you could color me impressed. And there's some tricky little nuances in that, where if you see a guy like Buda Wright or Malcolm Hartzog or some guys that were kind of held out, and you're thinking, you're filling in for those guys, are you thinking they could play but they're not? Do I still stay dialed that this is a big game? Am I still my own standard? Am I my own benchmark? How come they don't have to play and I don't feel great? You know what I mean? So there could be some of that immaturity. There wasn't. There was a lot of opportunity. And I think for this team, it's so competitive Monday through Friday. You better be careful about choosing not to get reps. And I like that as well, because what the staff has proven is you'll be rewarded for quality Monday through Fridays.
And the scary thing is when guys feel like the ground is closer to make up than maybe it actually is in terms of snaps. Because as you said, the proof is in the pudding Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And if those guys think they're nipping on the heels of a starter, that's where that relentlessness kind of comes in. And I think you made this point on the broadcast. At the point in time, I think you maybe singled out Nebraska's receiving core, or you're picking on a couple of Nebraska's guys in their secondary, and there's not a lot of glaring holes there. But guys are coming in and making plays and doing their job, and it's going to make those other 22 maybe operate with a little bit more urgency when they put the pads back on for practice.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, B-Mac. You want to make coaches uncomfortable that you're not in the game. right? There has to be kind of this thing that's in their head. I feel like I probably should be playing player X, and it doesn't matter who else is out there. That's how you want your staff to feel, because in the same vein, coaches want options too, right? And they don't want to have to be married to the idea if somebody's not playing or performing to the expectation levels that I want, that I don't have any other options. So it's a two-way street, and that traffic flows beautifully when both people understand that.
And when your other guys come in and execute when the lights are shining, that's when it starts to become the conundrum with the coaches, is, those guys being able to, do it when the lights are on. We hear the word gamer thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But when you're able to back it up, what you're doing in practice, and then go do it, that trust factor goes up, and that's where that.
And how about the Nebraska handling the fact you are holding guys out, and it's combated by guys that also, we saw what happened with Mekhi Nelson and Coach Rule alluding to that, or guys that were kind of sent home, for not being on time, which was alluded to. Or if you're doing it against Houston Christian, you're definitely doing it and holding that standard to Michigan. And we heard Coach Rule say, to paraphrasing a little, everybody has emotions. Emotions are fine. But how does it lend itself to your behavior, and what's the standard? And I think as long as he continues to operate with that kind of program discipline, you're going to get dialed in focus week after week.
It helps when you have a guy running the show that understands the big picture.
Oh,
and
he's a stone turner, isn't he?
The micros slowly turn into the macros, and when you have to put the pieces together, and sending a message, I think, is probably a little strong, but
he's always poking and prodding, isn't he?
Yeah.
Hey, what's the next best angle? Like, what's next in terms of what we've got to do for us to continue to stay dialed?
And everything that we're talking about isn't X's and O's. It's not, feathering a throw in zone defense or reading a hole or perimeter blocking, but it leads to that stuff, which is why what we were talking about in the last segment, this team has earned that right, is because they're taking care of all these things that are necessary to go do those things on the field and to go execute and put the ball in the end zone and get stops, or, bust a big punt return. There has to be stuff going on behind the scenes and, in the meeting rooms, on time, all that kind of stuff that puts them in those positions to go be successful and do it on the field, which is why I think you and I are sitting here today feeling good about what's going to happen today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be on full display, and I think we'll get a pretty good indication early.
One thing that I do want to point out from last week that was kind of ringing in my head, Damon, was for the first time in a while, I'm thinking about it from a Michigan perspective, and I go, when it comes to Nebraska and defending you, where do you start?
So I think for – I'll give you both sides of the ball. Offensively, if it's tough, because it's an offense in which it's quarterback driven. It's Raiola. It's receivers. It's Emmett Johnson. You feel good about your offensive line, but it's a different receiver every week, right? I think this one today is a tight ends kind of game. So we're going to introduce Harburg and Lindenmeyer in that group, controlling the intermediate passing game. If it's Nebraska on defense, now this is where it gets interesting, because obviously Justin Haynes is the headliner, right? He's a boomer bust. He's a big play guy, but, it's been hit or miss. But when he gets you, he gets you. The next thing I would start with is these tight ends at Michigan, because they are outstanding. And they'll come with 12 personnel. They can play 13 personnel. They're really, really good. And I don't feel good saying it, but it's what I believe. Then I get to Underwood. He's fantastic, but he still just turned 18. It's still just his fourth game. He needs the running game, and we saw what they've gone to help keep him safe last week, which was the boot game, those little waggles, the tight end play. So you take away his friends and have it kind of be a standalone guy, then we'll see where he's at.
Which is why I think when we talk about Michigan here in a little bit, it gets fun. It gets fun talking about, because the cat and mouse, as you like to say, this week could be an all-timer.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Could be an all-timer. It's going to be a fun one this week, and the way that this is shaping up to be because of I think the multiplicity of Nebraska's offense, what Michigan has put on tape. But that was something that was just kind of running through my head, what we've seen from Isaiah Hunter. Obviously, Dane Keyes made some big plays. Nebraska's tight end is a real problem and a real matchup problem for the opposition. Dylan's making throws to all of them. He's not necessarily having the one person that he's trying to focus in on to make the play for the Huskers. EJ, we know, is Mr. Reliable, a third down back, and we'll talk more about him as this kind of unfolds here today as well. But I think, in terms of Nebraska's offense, we've seen a lot of things that make us feel better about the challenge ahead. Coaches make substitutions during the game to get the best player on the field. Getting behind the wheel after drinking also demands a substitution. Sober drivers are the only choice. Impaired driving is deceptively dangerous. From the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Damon and I have already talked about how many people are already in and about Memorial Stadium today. More certainly on their way. Let's get our first check of our traffic report. Here's Trooper Brett.
Good morning, fans. Traffic is already noticeably heavier than normal as we get closer to the biggest game of the Huskers' young season. No major incidents to report, but we are seeing notable slowdowns on I-80 westbound in Omaha from mile marker 448 to 434. Other congested areas include I-80 westbound on-ramp near the Gretna Outlet Mall and I-180 in Lincoln. If you're coming in from the west, reduce your speed in the construction zone, then consider taking Highway 77 southbound to Rosa Parks Way. Fans, just like football pads, your car is designed to protect you in a collision, and your seatbelt is the MVP. Buckle up every trip and every time. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol Traffic Report on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report is brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. A porch swing or a skyline view. Work that matters and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app. Whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game, Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip?
As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play, knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit brand.ca for more.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome into this week's Cornhusker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. I'm Jessica Cootie and excited to be joined by senior linebacker Marquez Watson-Trent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing.
Okay, so 3 games into it. How has it felt being a Nebraska Cornhusker?
It's amazing. It's a unique experience to have the fan bases that we have. The team is such a close-knit team, a true brotherhood, so it's been an amazing experience.
How did Memorial Stadium feel the first time you ran out there on the home side as opposed to the opposing side?
It's a different feeling. When you make plays and you're at home, the roar is crazy. Versus the opposite end, their fans are quiet for their quarterback, so it's kind of a little different feeling. But to have the fans on your side and have that many people rooting and supporting you, it's like, I got to make another play. So it's like, it's a great feeling, gives you energy. It's the biggest juice you can have, the biggest momentum that you can have. I always look at it as another player because they play a role in the game.
Got your first sack last week. How did that feel?
It was amazing. It was a blessing. Coming through this, this first 3 games, kind of trying to find my way, get comfortable within the defense and then within the scheme. But it was amazing how God works. Really been in my word that week. And he was just showing me, telling me different things and trying to motivate me, give me confidence. And to go out to make that play was amazing in front of the fans.
That's been an emphasis of this defense, right? I mean, how important is it for you guys to not just get to the quarterback, but to get him down, too?
Yeah, it's a huge emphasis. And we even talking about taking a step further and getting the ball out. So next time I have the opportunity, I'm going to try to get that ball out. But that's what our defense is. We attack the quarterback, stop the run, and be good on third down.
You talked about finding your way. You've played a lot of football and have played a lot of football very well throughout your college career. But what is that process of finding your way here at Nebraska and settling into this defense?
I think every year you kind of find your role and you have a specific role within the scheme. I've done something so long one way. Now it's kind of a little different of finding how to play with each other, how to communicate, getting on the same page. It's just you got to play through those things. So I think that's what I've been doing, getting more comfortable with everybody. They're seeing how I play, I seeing how they play, and just throughout practice, just getting more comfortable. So that's kind of just like the thing as far as just when you're new to a team, you're new to a whole dynamic. Even with the schedule of how we do games, I kind of love it. It's very unique of how we do things here, and it's been a blessing to be a part of.
How important is that? Just building that time playing next to those other linebackers that you play against. How important is that just to know each other when you're out there?
Yeah, it's very important because you have to be on the same page when you're out there. Everybody on the defense got to be on the same page. So just knowing how Vincent play, knowing how Javen play, Bauer and all those guys, it helps you out there because it's like, we're on a string. I'm not alone out here. If I need to keep leverage, I know he's going to make the play. And it goes into the player coach's oath of what we talk about is just taking care of our teammate, making sure we know and doing our job. Because sometimes it's not you to make the play all the time. And I love this defense. I love that about it, that, you really got to sacrifice for the other players. So just making sure we're doing that, understand we're comfortable with each other and knowing each other's talents.
You and Javen are the old guys in the room pretty much, right? And Javen was out last week, had some younger guys step up. We saw Dawson Merritt, Michael Booker. Yeah. Vincent's even a young guy, too. How special is the young linebacker talent?
It's extremely special to have freshmen play and sophomores play as much as they have here, and it's no drop off from the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. That's a tell of a great team.
All right, how about now?
Put those guys in there and they make plays and don't give up much. So it's a blessing to have that. It's really it pushes you. Even we're the older guys, but we got to make sure we're on top of our stuff because our defense is built on making sure we're knowing and doing our job and making plays. And we have a lot of people that can make plays. So I love how we, rotate and get other people in, and I love supporting them and seeing them do amazing things.
So take me back to when you decide you play a long time at Georgia Southern and were the defensive player of the year in your conference. But when you decided to transfer, just what were you looking for? Why did you land on Nebraska?
I wanted a challenge, and I wanted to compete at a high level. Seeing what Matt Rule does, especially in his third year, and the programs that he built up, and the standard that he has just outside looking in, is different when you even get into it. It's another level that you get. And I knew there were some things that I wanted to fix as far as just, my management, time management, my weights, and different things like that. I wanted to be at the highest level to be able to make it to the NFL. And I feel like the Big Ten Conference is one of the best conferences in the nation. So to compete against, big-time talent and big-time competitors, but also compete every day here, when you're surrounded by guys, it only makes you a better player. My whole idea of going into the transfer portal was just to get better and compete at a high level. And, I feel like we're doing a great job. It's been one of the best decisions I made.
What did you know about Matt Rule before you started talking to him through this process?
Just one is my perspective of him from the world, just talking through, people that knows him, and just the reputation that he has is he demands greatness. And, that's something even when I got here and on my visit and got to talk to him, I really got to see that. He's a man of his word. He holds everybody to the highest standard. And it's all out of love and all out of passion. We're a family here, we're a brotherhood, but it's no man left behind. So we're going to pick everybody up, and, we can't go under the standard. So just hearing how he competes at a high level and how he withstands adversity and how practices is going to be and how our schedule is going to be, he's going to treat us like a pro. Obviously, coaching at the NFL, he knows exactly how it is. So him having that input also, motivated me to, get under somebody who he did it at the highest level. So he knows and, wanted to be a part of that.
Did you have any ties or connections to Nebraska?
I actually didn't. The biggest thing other than playing against it and feeling how it was and feeling how I felt, it was an amazing experience. Probably DeMichael is probably the only coach that I kind of similar, being from Pittsburgh and him being a big Pittsburgh guy. But other than that, I really didn't have a lot of connection. No, I didn't.
Wow. So you took a leap of faith then, coming here without knowing much other than just what you discovered throughout your process of recruiting.
For sure. It was a lot of prayer. My family, they do a really good job. They hold me accountable, and they really help me with decisions like that. So just going to my group and my foundation and really, praying on it and asking God if this is a great position for me, a great situation for me. Obviously, it's far from family. And, it's hard for them to get to the games and different things, but they do an amazing job supporting from wherever they are, and they try to get to every game. So really wasn't worried about that. But I really wanted to get challenged, and I knew what I wanted. And, I thank God for, helping me make this decision. It's been a blessing.
Did coming here as an opponent play a role in that, do you think?
It did, because I got to experience it from the opposite end. And I was like, if I'm playing for them, I understand how that will feel. Mm-hmm. And like I told you, they really play a huge role. It makes playing offense here is hard because of the noise and everything going on, and the atmosphere makes you want to play harder when you hear the roar of a crowd. So just being on the right side of it is fun, and it's an amazing experience.
You've racked up so many tackles throughout your college career, and that's one thing that people have said about you all along is just that you have these elite tackling skills. Mm. What's gone into that? How have you become just such a good tackler, especially playing defense?
Yeah, I would say really hard work on understanding leverage. I feel like tackling is also a mindset of not having fear. Sometimes you just got to go. I still work on it every day, trying to make sure I'm tightening it up and different things. I play with great leverage just because of my size. Some people may look at my size as a downfall, but I always looked at it as a positive because I always have good leverage on everybody I play. So just being physical, having a mindset, and God always being out there with me, so it allowed me to play free. So those are some of the few things, but just a lot of hard work and grinding for it.
So has that always been something that you've had to focus on then, even throughout your high school and even prep career?
As far as just the tackling?
That you talk about your size and just knowing kind of how to maneuver your body in a way, the leverage and all of that?
Yeah, I think, I've kind of been all this size my whole life. So it kind of really, you kind of just, play how you play. Like, I don't think about being 6'3" because I'm 5'11". But as far as just not having any fear and being free out there, that's just always something I had, and having confidence with it throughout the years. So it kind of helped me have success through high school and through college. Is just going, like, just playing ball and having a physical mindset of, tackling the ball, carrying whoever got the ball, no matter who you are, what size you are, getting to the ball and, getting them down.
Where did you find your love for football?
That's a great question. I would say as a young age, I'm from Pittsburgh, so my very beginning of football really wasn't like a program. It was more like the kids on the street, and we just, would line it up anywhere if it was in the middle of the street or in somebody's backyard. And I would say truly that's where I kind of started learning about the love of the game and just playing it as a kid. I always loved, running, tackling, touchdowns, all those different things. So I think my love really started young, real young. My father always been big on it with me. He's been a great mentor for me. He actually played when he was younger and different things like that. So it was just a fun game to me. And then when I started to learn different techniques and like more about it, I started to fall in love with the process of, if we're running these hills or we're doing these drills, it's going to help you in the game. And I just love seeing how that works and getting better throughout the years.
I've always found that linebackers are kind of, they're so just to talk to you, learn so much. Like your knowledge of the game, has that always come naturally to you? Have you had to work on it, or have you always kind of understood and known the game, how the game goes throughout your entire career?
Yeah, I think one thing one of the coaches, one of my high school coaches, is like, don't ever lose the love of learning. So it did come natural to me, but I also love learning more, and I think you can never learn too much. Whether it's just different drills you can do of different techniques and understanding the game as far as formation, personnel, now the level of the back, and like if he's pistol, if he's offset, just different things. Everything plays a role, and football is similar in different every levels. There's obviously different things that go into it, but it's very like a clean-cut game when you make it. So I just always love to learn. It kind of came easy to me in the beginning and stuff like that, but just always want to build on it and keep building on it.
If someone's listening that's being told they're undersized, what's your message to that?
You can't control what God bless you with. So realize it's a blessing in disguise sometimes, and you got to control what you can control. If they feel like you're undersized, then you just work harder on different things. Make sure your technique is always there. Make sure your eyes are good. Make sure you're bursting. Make sure you're playing physical. Football isn't just a dressed-up game. Like, it's not about just how tall you are, how fast you can run. It's about when the ball snaps, can you make that play? And I would say just focus on that. You can't control how tall you are, how fast you are, how big you are, but you can control how hard you play. And that's been, the biggest thing for me, and staying focused and grinding through every situation, every adversity you go through, and just keep it going and keep God first before anything.
I love that. Great message. You are one of 9 siblings?
One of 9.
Wow. So what role has that played in the person that you became, and, even the leader that you've become?
I would say of those 9, I'm the oldest. So kind of that leadership of, you're always the first to do it. You're the first to make mistakes. You're the first to do something good. It played a role in like how I moved, and it became less about me and more about them in a sense. And I think that's how God calls us to lead our life, of selflessness. Just to make sure that I'm giving them a great example of what to do and what not to do. And even through my mistakes, tell them, hey, listen, this is where I messed up. Maybe you need to go this route. And just being somebody who supports and loves them through anything they do. And that's been, a blessing in my life to have those people and have my siblings and have my family to really be there. And it's a great bond to have, you know what I mean? They're all over the world. They do an amazing thing. I got a brother who does, clothing. I got a sister that's in nursing school. She's actually about to finish. So just to see their story, it motivates me to keep going, and they motivate me every day. So it's a blessing.
Wow, and you always got a bunch of cheerleaders, I'm sure, too.
100%.
Are they all in on Go Big Red now?
Yeah, they are. They are. Whoever I'm playing with, no matter who it is, that's who we're supporting. So I love them for that, and they continue to keep me going.
Oh, that's special. You also moved here with your now fiance. Yeah. What role has she played in you settling in to Lincoln? And she likes it here too, right?
No doubt. That's my road dog. I love her to death. she's so resilient, and you know, she's competitive herself. So she keeps me motivated, keep me grounded. We have a great relationship with God also, so we're both chasing God through this process. So like she's a special person to me, and she means a lot to me. You know, it's just us out here. Like I told you, like I'm from Pittsburgh, she's from Georgia. So we hold it down for each other. So making sure, you know, we got each other back whenever we're feeling how we're feeling. And it's always open communication. There's always love for her.
Great to have.
It is.
Great to have. You know, I find it just so refreshing that here you are, you played a lot of football, and you're saying, I had room to grow. I had a lot of room to grow, and especially since you've even been here. So what are some of those areas that you feel like you are better now, even just through 3 games of this season here playing at Nebraska?
Yeah, I would say my approach, my process. I love how Coach has different things aligned as far as just nutrition, taking care of our body in the weight room. You know, I learned a lot about sleep. I use mouth tape now, like stuff that I've never thought about because we necessarily didn't have those resources that now we do, that I implemented in my routine and in my plan. And those are things that help me grow as a player. Even the film study and different techniques, even through that. So I think just all around, like I become a better player because I'm around great players and I'm around great coaches who push every day, you know, to scratch and crawl to get better. And there's no relaxing. It's always going forward and, you know, what's next mentality. So I love it, man. It's been a journey and I love it, and I can't wait to keep growing throughout the season.
People might take that for granted, just, you know, some of those little things like the nutrition. So you felt a difference in your game when you're on the field just by what you've been able to do with what you're doing at the training table or those kinds of resources?
Yeah, for sure. Some people think it doesn't matter as far as just how much you're putting in on your body. But when you actually look at the science, like Mish does a great job and Miss Christian does amazing job as far as teaching us what it means when you have the weight, the body blows that you take throughout the season, or if it's in the fourth quarter, or if it's overtime, like you need the energy. So, you know, you play off of what you eat beforehand and even the day before. So like those things really, you know, started to make sense to me. And I can see it now that when I'm playing, I'm not as tired, or even recovery has been easier for me because of now I'm packing on weight and I'm eating the right stuff, not just anything. And it's just helped my game go to another level, and it's continuing to grow as we go through the season.
Oh, great stuff. All right, let's circle back. Let's talk about this week. Big one. This is one of the games I'm sure you came here to Nebraska to play in, right?
100%. This is what everybody dreams of as a kid watching it. Big Ten football, like it's everything. So I'm excited. I'm extremely excited, and I can't wait. I know my guys are ready. I know we're ready to compete, so it's a big one for sure.
What, as you dive into some of the film, what are going to be some of the big things that this defense has to do against Michigan?
Yeah, so I look at it as just Big Ten in general. As we go in the conference, it's about stopping the run. You know, the Big Ten is closest probably to the NFL is just the way we play football. It's hard-nosed football. It's downhill run. It's run until you stop it, and when you stop it, it's play, action, pass. So just understanding the physicality level that we have to play at, the communication that we have to play, and we just got to execute and be us. And I'm excited to, you know, do that. You know, we just finished practice up today and seeing guys really, you know, starting to click and really communicate on a different level and really seeing different things. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and in the Big Ten, right, it's one in the trenches a lot of times, is that defensive line. They got some young guys. How have you seen them continue to grow? And just even now heading into week 4, the growth that they've been able to have so far this season? Yeah,
they don't look the same as they did week 1. And that's what it's supposed to look like for every football player. You're supposed to look better as the weeks goes on. You don't want to, you look good now, and then throughout the season you start, you know, digressing. But they've been doing a great job. Like they've been doing an amazing job as far as just implementing what we're learning and then learning from our mistakes and, you know, doing it out there in practice and playing hard and playing fast and playing physical. Like it's a great group to play in. Play behind, because it makes my job easier when they're, you know, getting after the quarterback or getting after the running back. So I'm excited for them to, you know, show the world what they're capable of and the whole defense as a whole.
Complementary football, we've seen that the last couple of weeks with special teams and offense, defense. What is that like on the sideline when you have the other two phases to go along with what you guys are doing defensively?
Yeah, well, we talk about hitting yardage. Special teams plays a huge role. And when you talk about teams starting it from, you know, the 20 versus the 30 versus the 50 or 15, those are percentages of points. So I look at it like, okay, if they're starting on a 10, the percentage of them getting out of this is low. So we have a great opportunity to have the advantage, and we also have a great opportunity to score because now they got a punt, and now it's looking like, okay, now they're going to start on the plus 45. So just as far as just knowing, understanding the game is how, scoring works and points, I feel like it's an amazing job we've been doing, and they've been truly, the third half of the game.
Through 3 games, number 1 pass defense in the country. Those guys on the back, they playing behind you, pretty special too, right?
They're dogs. They're special players, and it's unique the level of, and all of them are different ages, different groups of guys. It don't matter who goes in there. They compete at a very high level, and they take everything serious. And I love the way their mindset is. It don't matter who it is, and sometimes we play man a lot, so. We're going to come down there and show you who we are. And I love the confidence that they have, and you can see it growing throughout the season. And it just gives me confidence that, hey, I don't got to worry about them throwing it over my head because I know I got somebody back there that, that can handle theirs. So it's a blessing to see.
You guys always talk about just being aggressive, physical, all of that, and setting the tone here and to start Big Ten play. How crucial is that going to be for you guys?
It's super crucial, but the most important thing is it's the next game. We're not looking at the opponent and say, we got to do something crazy to win. It's about just doing our job and continuing the things that we have done, learning from the weeks of past, and just growing. It's not about, we got to make a crazy play or got to do that. When you do that, that's when you start messing up because you're trying to make a play. It's just about executing, playing the style of defense that we play, which is I'm going to do my job, you're going to do your job, and if I don't make the play, you make the play. And I love that about us, and I know that's the mindset that we're going in. We're going to compete at a high level. We're going to be physical. We're going to play fast, and we're going to cover you. So I'm excited.
Great stuff. You think it's been loud before? Wait till Saturday here in South
I already know it's going to be extremely loud. I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and it's been such a joy to watch you here in a Husker uniform, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Mark West, watching Trent here with us on this week's Corn Husker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac.
Hello,
on
Courtney.
the Huskers Radio Network.
I'm good. Got you loud and clear.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset.
Yeah, we were just talking about it back here.
While I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
90 seconds,
Here,
go.
fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
The work is dirty.
And another one.
And sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body. And if you let it, your spirit.
I know.
But while there may be better ways to make a living, You won't convince me
Yes,
there's
it
a
is.
better way to live.
Yep, that is good.
I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play,
All right,
knowing
Coach,
our
liner and
systems
10.
are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown. Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like
Here's
no
liner.
other.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
And you're up.
Matt Coatney back with you on our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. Time now for a Nebraska Lottery scoreboard update from the Greg Sharp radio booth. There are 5 matchups of Big Ten teams this weekend, 4 of those on this Saturday, and early on in Dallas, SMU at TCU, a matchup of longtime rivals, and it was the Horned Frogs getting on the board first.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you.
Hoover rolling to his right, flushed out, looks downfield in traffic. It is caught. First down inside the 10 and more. Touchdown, Eric McAllister. From 27 yards out, Hoover on the run. Finds his number 1 target wearing the jersey with the same numeral. You can hit the horn.
It's Brian Estridge on the call on TCU Radio from Learfield. It's 7-3 Horned Frogs. They are nearing the end of the first quarter of play. In Big Ten play, 4:43 left in the first quarter. Maryland has a 7-0 lead over Wisconsin after an interception and a long return. Malik Washington scores on a 1-yard touchdown run. And boy, Wisconsin is struggling right now. Maryland and Mike Loxley looking to go 4-0 with a 7-0 lead in their Big Ten opener. In other games going on early on, a big one out in Salt Lake City. 17th ranked Texas Tech leads number 16 Utah 7-0. Cameron Dickey on a 1-yard touchdown run for the Red Raiders. 5:56 left in the first quarter there. Arkansas leads at Memphis 7-3 in the Liberty Bowl. 4:44 to go in the first quarter. Keelan Green on a 62-yard touchdown pass to his tight end Rohan Jones in that one. Dabo Swinney and Clemson struggling at home in Death Valley. 7:33 to go in the first quarter, and already Syracuse leads Clemson 10-0. Steve Angeli on a 12-yard touchdown pass to Ross Simmons. Trip Woody has a 23-yard field goal to give Syracuse the 10-0 lead. Virginia Tech has their first rushing touchdown of the year. They lead Wofford 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. Braden Bennett on a 3-yard scoring run for the margin there. Other games, Louisville has just now taken the lead after Bowling Green kicked a field goal. Louisville with a 7-3 lead over Bowling Green. 2:03 to go in the first quarter. In Kentucky, it's Miami of Ohio leading UNLV 13-0. They are early in the first quarter of play. The Army is struggling this year. North Texas at West Point right now, still 1:24 to go in the first quarter, and North Texas leads it 21-0 over the Cadets. South Florida with a 7-0 lead over South Carolina State. End of the first quarter of play. It is Mac Harris on a 92-yard pick six to give the Bulls their scores. And coming up later tonight, you can join me and former Husker Jeremiah Searles for Big Red Reaction. And we will take your calls until 9:30 p.m. Central. It's a big day of football here. And I'm Matt Coatney, looking forward to it. Now let's send it back to Ben McLaughlin.
Thanks, Coat. Appreciate it. Game's already underway. This is part of the reason why 2:30 kickoffs are so great, because we have something to keep us company. Texas Tech, Utah, as Coat already laid out for us. Interesting matchup, and also weird that they're in the same conference. Still can't get over that.
Yeah, it's a heck of a uniform contrast game, too. But I actually think this one will go a long way deciding, in my water's wet moment, the Big 12 race. I think it's going to turn into a 3-team race after this. And what was arguably the most wide-open conference, I think, when the season started.
What have you made of what's happened in Lubbock with their athletic department in the last year? I mean, their investment into athletes is just skyrocketed.
Yeah. I think they took Landman, the television show, literally. All that oil money. It's just like, it's a flowing, and we'll see. You know, and Coach Rule has quite an affinity for Coach McGuire and thinks a lot of him. And, So obviously there's some substance there too with what's going on with Texas Tech's program, because you can't just bring guys in and have it work. I mean, contrary to popular belief. So, maybe Coach McGuire and that staff are finding the right guys to spend all that money on, because it's paid some dividends.
Starting to buzz around here. I mean, the amount of people and the foot traffic around Lincoln, you can tell the fans here are ready for this one. Nebraska and Michigan now under 3 hours away from kickoff. I think, to me, Damon, the first real test, as we talked about, obviously Cincinnati, the first game, you're always intrigued and interested on what you're going to see. But, the Huskers and the Wolverines today, I think part of it, too, is because not only from our side, but go to their sideline. And, speaking of investment into players, their guy catching the snaps today is certainly going to be no stranger to that. And I think seeing him in this environment will be interesting too, and what we'll talk a little bit Michigan in our next segment. But I think there's a level of intrigue for me on both sides, not just ours today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm hoping that there is some of what Dylan had to go through last year as a freshman starter who amassed over 500 and some snaps in a season, and it was kind of a feeling out process as the season went along for Dylan, and hopefully Bryce goes through some of that today. Tough environment. I get it. He was down in Norman, but it won't be.
Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip?
As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
This is Big Red Football.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means two things: harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Whether you're a farmer, rancher, investor, or simply a Husker fan, look to Dakota Mac for your ag financing needs. Visit dakotamac.com to learn more. Ben McLaughlin alongside Damon Benning. DB, let's talk a little Wolverines now. Spent a lot of time watching them this week. I think Wink Martindale certainly is having some fun with what he's doing on the defensive side of the ball for Michigan. Offensively, they kind of have their own thing going on, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But when you watch them, what's the first thing that stands out to you about Michigan?
So obviously the pressure packages. They come from a lot of different places, and they come often. So I think, Nebraska getting some good pre-snap looks and getting in and out of things, I think would be critical. But they're an active football team. The other thing is, when I flip over and look at them on offense, it's like death taxes and good tight end play. The offensive line isn't as vintage as it has been in some years past, but what they want to get to from their concepts is still the same. Duo, that zone, they split zone. But good tight ends and a very, very active front seven.
First thing I notice when I watch Michigan's defense, obviously the pressure packages, as you say, they're really creative with it. But even just their alignment defensively, I think they want to put a lot of stress on your tackles. And, the width in which those guys play with, it's almost like at times they use those guys' alignment to create those pressure packages. What type of communication and challenge is going to be on Nebraska's end line offensive tackles today?
Yeah, I think that's actually the game within the game. How fast does Nebraska want to snap the ball? I think it's going to be a relatively low possession game, and Nebraska wants to play with some pace, but you need first down. So I think as much control as they give to Dylan with being able to do a couple of different things with play calling, the fact that he has to communicate it really well and then bounce that call and set the protection, I think is as we like to say, the game within the game. Nebraska's got to be really sound in terms of their pass protection. If he has time, I think he'll be able to have some wins out there. Now, and it'd be different for him. He's about 20 percentage points higher in his completion percentage zone versus man, and he's going to see a lot of man-to-man today. So trust and protection will be huge.
I was just about to go there next. The coverages. Michigan played a lot of zone against Oklahoma, and there was open guys all night. Was that more of what they thought Oklahoma was going to do, or was that more of a let's try this out and not try it out? That's the wrong way to phrase it. Let's run this, and then now obviously the success wasn't what it needs to be, so now we're going to go to a much more man-to-man style.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with who they were seeing. Mateer is so active with his legs, and I think they wanted eyes in the backfield, so they played a little bit of zone behind those pressure packages. But I don't think they're as concerned with that, obviously, with Dylan. And so they'll turn and run with some guys and force Nebraska to play it that way. And I think they know data, right? They know Dylan has been precise. 80% completion percentage, darn near. He's 8 to none touchdowns to interception ratio. He's been precision-like, and so I think Wink's going to want to speed him up as best he can.
How has his transition been to the college game, do you think? Second year now, a lot of time in the NFL. I'm wondering from his standpoint how much learning curve there was. A lot more coaching going on at this level than there is just employing a scheme.
Yeah, I think from a complexity standpoint, he knows he doesn't get near as much time in the college game as he does in the pros. And so I think he's adjusted there, some of the intricacies he could run. And, he lost 2 pros, right, along that D line from a year ago. So I think he's still getting acclimated there in terms of how to play behind some guys that they have experience, but there's top 2-round guys with Grant and Mason Graham from a year ago. So there's always an adjustment period there just from a talent standpoint.
Another thing on Michigan's defense that I've noticed, and you talked a little bit about this with HCU last week, their safeties love to come hit.
Yeah, they bring it.
They fly downhill. Something to keep an eye on today. They're not afraid to put the pads down and try to forcible contact, get that ball out.
Yeah, there's two things in there. So I think they leave themselves a little vulnerable to double moves. So if Nebraska has some time, we'll see if Michigan will take the cheese. And then the other thing is if you can make the first guy miss, there's some room to maneuver after that. So when you play as downhill and as aggressive as Michigan does, it's not quite feast or famine, but there's not a left behind you if you don't get guys to the ground. So we'll see if Nebraska can take advantage of that.
All right, let's flip over to the other side of the ball. Obviously it doesn't take long to watch Michigan to realize, and I actually think they've done a pretty good job making life a little easier on Underwood with how their pre-snap, with their not only alignment but their motions and a lot of eye candy to try and take some of that away and confuse defenses, I think, to make Bryce Underwood's life a little bit easier. We haven't seen a ton of that. We saw it a little bit more with Cincinnati, I think. But when you're seeing that pre-snap, Damon, and you're trying to communicate with one another, what does that do for Nebraska's defense to making sure that you're on your P's and Q's on that side of the ball, not to get caught up in the motions and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, communication. It's communication. You got to talk, and eye discipline. My man, my fit. Nebraska plays so much man-to-man. When they fit in the run game, I think that's how they have to think. And I do think it helps that they saw Cincinnati from a couple of different aspects. Number one, Royer is one of the best tight ends in the country. And Klein and Hansen, Michigan's tight ends, are really good in that respect as well. And so I think seeing guys like Royer will help. Also, Sorsby is just a more advanced version of Underwood. He's really good with his legs, can hurt you with his arm. He's a big, strong guy from an athleticism standpoint. And so I think Nebraska has a little bit of a blueprint in terms of what it looks like if they don't do their job.
It seemed to me last week it was calculated by Michigan to have him run more. Yeah. Because when you watch the Oklahoma game, he didn't not want to run, but he was hesitant to. There was 3 or 4 plays where he could have taken off and got yards, but he'd stop at the line of scrimmage and end up throwing the football. It feels like it was a calculated move from Michigan to put some stuff on tape for Nebraska to have to defend with his legs.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with the boot and the waggle game, they only had the 2 or 3 what I'd call design runs for him, but getting him out on the perimeter, kind of the dual threat thing, I definitely think was intentional. And so Nebraska has to be cognizant of that just to make sure that, it's like fire. It's really good when it's in the fireplace, so you want to keep it contained. But you get it out in the forest and stuff gets burnt to the ground. You just have to hope that that's not Nebraska's secondary or that defense in general.
How does Michigan's run game look with Haynes when it's going well?
So it's been a little boom or bust, right? He's obviously explosive, and he's got a couple of 70-yarders, and so when he creases you, but it hasn't always been consistent, too. I mean, they've started a lot of 2nd and 8s as well. So I think if you're Nebraska, one of the things that they've really got to do a good job with is you may bottle him. Don't relax with Justice. You have to make sure that you stay on your P's and Q's because he will get you if you don't get him to the ground. So don't relax just because they've had a couple of stagnant rushes. He'll stay with it.
Another thing that we've come to know with Michigan is they're good for a trick play or two every time out. And, you saw it in the Oklahoma game. It didn't work, but, we've seen it plenty with Coach Harbaugh's team, and Coach Moore's even kind of kept that with them a little bit. I know some different circumstances with their coaching staff today, but is Nebraska prepped for that? What are you expecting in terms of, is Michigan going to get cute with a play call or two, do you think?
Yeah, I think Nebraska's got to go back to the basics, right? Alignment, assignment, technique. Where do I get lined up? What's my assignment, and then what's my technique? with a team like Michigan that has a lot of things that look the same, just subtle nuances with motion, it's all about Nebraska's eyes. You got to be disciplined and don't play hero ball. You know, I always like to talk 1 of 11. With a team like Michigan that has so many complementary plays, they'll get you if you try to play too much of that hero ball. Nebraska's got to really be disciplined with their eyes.
It seems like offenses like this too, Damon, they have a plan early in the first couple of drives to set you up for something later.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And so Nebraska, I think that's why the whole AAT, the alignment assignment technique, is huge, because when you start getting outside of that and thinking you have a bead, that's when they get you. So the play-to-play reminders of staying in the moment, I think, will be critical.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up and drive it home here in this segment, because I think in a game like this, that one play, it's going to be the difference.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have the story next week when we're having this conversation of what could have been because of X, Y, or Z. And the team knows that. Coach Rule knows that. Yeah. Coach Butler knows that. But with 2 younger quarterbacks, and it's weird saying that about Dylan, but he still falls in that criteria, it's going to come down to who makes a big play with their arm, but more importantly, who avoids that big mistake in crunch time.
100%. Right, and I think it bleeds into what I think Nebraska's one clear advantage is in this game, and that's their special teams. So if you don't put the ball in harm's way on offense and you can take it away once or twice on defense, the advantage I think Nebraska has in special teams is magnified that much more.
It was interesting watching that game with Michigan and Oklahoma, because there was a lot of new parts, another all-time helmet game between those two, a lot of new parts, but also when you think of Coach Venables and then you think about Michigan's identity, seeing that one, there was some splash plays early from the Sooners, but the game really kind of settled in from there. I kind of feel like might be how this one goes a little bit. Maybe not so many fireworks early in the game, but what happens in the trenches from the third drive to middle of the third quarter, kind of those hidden moments in the game where those individual battles are going to determine. We talked about the 1 or 2 plays, but there's a lot of things that's going to happen in between that. That's going to, a bit of momentum game. Who's winning their one-on-one battles? Who's making those tackles? Who's missing those tackles? Who's making those, 5-yard out route type of throws that could dictate how the end of the game goes?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see along those lines who feels good about what unit. It wouldn't surprise me if
that's a good point. That's a good way to put it.
Right? If Nebraska finally could win a toss, would they take the ball? Would they put their perceived strength out there on the field, or would they defer? Same with Michigan, right? So I think depending on what they do after we see the coin toss, we'll get a vibe on where I think each team's confidence lies in their position groups.
So let me ask you that then. What unit do you feel better about with the matchup with Michigan today?
Oh, that's a good question. I think if I'm Coach Rule, this is just me, I defer and I put my defense on the field to gain confidence, because this is how I envision it playing out. Ideally, you get the great electric entrance. This place will be electric. Nebraska kicks the ball off. You put yourself in position for a 3 and out. It does a couple of things. Number one, the crowd will be gassed and juiced, but it'll settle your team down because they know what the questions are, B-Mac. It's can these guys line it up and defend Michigan? I keep hearing this. Well, Michigan will run it down their throat. It's almost like they haven't watched Michigan yet, because that hasn't been who Michigan has been so far. So if they could get that going, that would be a tremendous pause for concern if you're a Nebraska fan. So what I think is, you get the 3 and out, the crowd gets lathered up, you get a chance because I thought they'd get a return last week. They could get a punt block this week. It's all over the tape.
It was not without lack of effort last week.
Oh, right? I think for this one, Michigan's almost had a few, and it's been an adventure in special teams for Michigan so far, whether it's fielding punts or getting them off. And then, of course, you let Nebraska's offense get out there with hopefully relatively good field position. That would be ideal for me.
I have to bring this up because I need your perspective, because this popped into my head Monday or Tuesday this week, and I've kind of been on it, and I want to know if I'm way off.
Probably not.
Does any of this game have 2014 Miami?
Ooh, with just the raucous crowd and
freshman quarterback.
Yeah, Randy Gregory got loose in that one.
Good running back, Duke Johnson for them.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting that we were back for that game as well, 2014. I don't know.
It's not going to be 41-31. But similar style feeling.
I would love for it to be that electric too.
Yeah.
Right. Or Colorado a year ago. And that game was chippy.
Yeah.
There was
You got Josh Mitchell on top of a 285-pound lineman with his hands on his face
one is
mask.
chippy. And I'd like to see Nebraska play with that kind of swag and confidence too, because that team was pretty brash when the Canes came to town. So maybe. I just hope we get that kind of electricity.
And I sure hope it doesn't start like that game with the true freshman quarterback going 9 plays, 75 yards, and quieting the crowd. I certainly don't want that. But it ended up being an electric night. And obviously this is a 2:30 kick. But for whatever reason, because there's so much talk about Underwood in the environment, I went right back to Brad Kaya because that's what the conversation was all week.
Yep.
He's gonna have to go beat the black shirts. And so that's why, I don't think this game's going to go exactly, but in terms of the feeling and the situation that you're putting a freshman quarterback into of a powerhouse program.
You know what's funny about you bringing that up is the guy that I think has got a chance to really introduce himself on the national stage for Nebraska defensively is a guy that Michael Rose-Ivy says gives him Randy Gregory-esque vibes, and that's Deshaun McCullough.
He's on the verge of coming out.
He's close.
You can see it.
He's close.
You can see it.
He's, and I loved it because MRI didn't really want to heap that kind of comparison on him. He's like, I don't know, DB. The more I look at it, the more I'm thinking he's giving me those RG vibes.
Well, I'm glad you don't look at me like, dude, no. That did not.
It's not too bad, man. I like the way you think.
The conference game. So there's some differences too, but for whatever reason, when they're talking about Underwood, I was like, this has a lot of 14 Miami. And let's hope it finishes that way, too, with Nebraska winning.
You're not kidding.
Game preparation and repetition predicts success in winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelts will increase their survival chances if a crash should happen. Remember to always make it click from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Let's check our traffic situation around Lincoln. Here's Trooper Brett.
Hey there, Husker fans. Today's big game against the Maize and Blue continues to cause heavier than usual traffic. There was a minor crash near Highway 6 and Cape Heart in Gretna. This has resulted in some stop-and-go traffic in the vicinity. Troopers are in the area assisting with that. We are seeing significant slowdowns on I-80 westbound in Omaha from 84th Street until just west of the ILQ Street exit. Also, be prepared for slowdowns on I-80 in both directions as traffic continues to build approaching I-180 in Lincoln. Fans, every second of the game counts, just like every second on the road matters. Keep your focus on the road and put your phone down. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol Traffic Report on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report was brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification on the Huskers Radio Network. This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
SOS to the rescue.
Call SOS, a trustworthy company since 1950. Their technicians don't earn commission. This equals fair treatment to their customers. SOS is a family-owned third-generation company, and now to celebrate the 75th year in business for a limited time, get a New York AC or furnace for $75 per month. Get you and your loved ones comfortable again with SOS.
SOS to the rescue. SOS.
SOS. Call 402-949-3407.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. A porch swing or a skyline view. Work that matters and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave.
Hey there.
Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip?
As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
Here, fall means two things: harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome to Tunnel Walk Through Time, a segment where we reflect on Husker football games of the past. I'm Camden Cohn. Today, we travel back to December 28th, 2005. 20 years ago, the unranked Cornhuskers faced off with the 20th ranked Michigan Wolverines in the Alamo Bowl. The Huskers were 7-4 after a 30-3 win over Colorado, while Michigan was also 7-4 after they fell to Ohio State to end their regular season. So both teams were looking to end their seasons on a high note. The Big Red got the ball to start this one and picked up a couple of first downs, but ultimately ended up turning it over on downs to the Wolverines at the 43. The Blackshirts quickly forced a 3-and-out to get the ball back, and after the punt, Nebraska started at their own 27 and looked to put a score on the board in a heartbeat.
Short drop, throws, flat, headed, caught, 9, 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Nebraska!
What a strike from Zach Taylor to Terrence Nunn to give Nebraska a 7-0 lead with 8:04 to go in the first quarter. But unfortunately for NU, the lead didn't last very long. Chad Henne found Tyler Ecker for a 13-yard touchdown with 5:48 left in the first. That tied the game at 7. Both offenses struggled for the rest of the quarter as both defenses made plays. The Wolverines picked off Taylor late in the quarter, but weren't able to turn it into any points. Taylor threw another interception early in the second quarter, and this time, Michigan was able to capitalize. A 16-yard touchdown pass from Henne made it 14-7 UM with 11:43 to go in the second quarter. The Nebraska offense just couldn't get anything going as they continued to punt back to Michigan. Luckily, the Blackshirts stepped up and forced punts from the Wolverines. Nebraska got the ball back with a little under 5 minutes to go and looked to gain some momentum before the half. NU started at their own 30 and worked it down the field until they got into the red zone. From the 14, Taylor made another play through the air.
2:43 in the half. Tanner back to pass. Blitz comes. He holds the ball. Lets it go. Underneath coverage. Swift at the 5. At the goal line. Touchdown Nebraska.
So Nebraska was able to tie the game up just before the half, 14-14. Michigan started the third quarter and went 3 and out, giving the ball back to Taylor and the offense as they looked to take the lead. The Huskers worked it all the way down to the 3-yard line and were unable to punch it in for 6 and settled for a 20-yard field goal from Jordan Congdon with 8:54 left in the third. So 17-14 Nebraska, but it didn't take long for the Wolverines to respond. Henny led a 6-play, 58-yard drive that ended in another Michigan touchdown, make it 21-17 with 6:31 left in the third. Nebraska was unable to respond, but the Blackshirts made a play of their own with an interception. Unfortunately, Nebraska was again unable to turn the turnover into points and had to punt it away. The Big Reds' inefficiency on offense was starting to become an issue as Michigan added to their lead with an 8-play, 53-yard drive that ended in a Henny touchdown run and made it 28-17 Wolverines with just 11:40 to go. Nebraska got the ball back and gained just 3 yards and punted back to the hot Michigan offense. However, the Blackshirts were able to get a 3 and out, and NU got the ball back at the 38 of Michigan with 8:50 left. On the second play of the drive, Nebraska found pay dirt.
As they hand it off to Ross again, got a block to the outside 30. He's at 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Nebraska!
Ross's touchdown made it 28-23, and the Huskers would convert on a 2-point conversion, bringing the score to 28-25 with 8:08 remaining. The Blackshirts forced a fumble on Michigan's next drive, but Nebraska's offense left empty-handed. Another fumble by the Wolverines gave NU excellent field position at the 17. This time, the offense would not be denied.
Taylor pulls away. Taylor has the time. Taylor into the end zone. Touchdown, Nebraska!
The Big Red took a 32-28 lead with 4:29 to go. The Blackshirts needed a stop as the game clock continued to wind down. The Wolverines went on a 9-play, 47-yard drive, but they turned it over on downs at Nebraska's 18. With 2:34 to go, NU got the ball back and took 2:27 off the clock before punting back to Michigan. So with 7 seconds to go, Michigan had one final chance for a score. They lateraled the ball over and over and eventually muffed one of the laterals. Players and coaches came out onto the field, but the play was still alive. Michigan advanced to Nebraska's 15 before the Blackshirts knocked Tyler Ecker out of bounds to end the game. With the 32-28 victory, Nebraska improved to 8-4. Corey Ross finished with 28 carries for 161 yards, while Zach Taylor threw for 2 touchdowns. This has been Tunnel Walk Through Time. Next time, we will travel back to 2015 for a matchup with Michigan State. Reporting for the Huskers Radio Network, I'm Camden Cone.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Tired of worrying about what to make for dinner? Try Gary's Quick Steak. It's delicious, convenient, and easy to make in minutes as it cooks from frozen. It also has over 20 grams of protein per serving, is gluten-free, and is made with real beef and chicken. Enjoy sandwiches, enchiladas, stir-fry, quality sirloin chicken and corned beef ready in minutes. Simply sizzle, flip, and savor.
I promise you, if you try it, you're absolutely going to love it.
Visit our website to find a store near you.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you, a porch swing or a skyline view, work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave, hey there. Stars you can almost touch, a mortgage that makes sense, more space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip?
As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Back one final time, Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Ben McLaughlin, Damon Benning, Kyle Crooks will have countdown to kickoff here in just a few minutes before some unfinished business from Damon and I here in our last segment. We're going to start, DB, with our ground game report brought to you by Brandt Industries. Make sure your ground game is up to speed with the Brandt high-speed disc for a better field finish and fewer passes. And I feel like in this instance today, we should maybe talk about both sides just because of how much attention the ground game for Michigan has gotten. I think a lot of people will just look at this and say, oh, if Michigan runs the ball well, they're going to win the game. Let's just assume that to be true here for a second. What does Nebraska, and we talked a lot about the eye candy stuff and Underwood and the throws and all that kind of stuff earlier. But in terms of just the Michigan running game, how does Nebraska limit that? And you said boom or bust. Keep it more on the bust side today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it starts with tackling and lane integrity. It's lane integrity you hear a lot of times when it comes to rushing the passer, like making sure you keep contained and those kinds of things. But I think it's just as important in the run game too, especially when you're in Nebraska and you move and you stunt and you twist a ton. You got to make sure you get back to where you need to be. You know, they've got a couple of guys that go for more than 7 yards a carry. So I think you have to make sure from Haynes to Marshall that make sure you are gap sound against the run.
That's interesting, too, because I think with that being the case, it's going to be a guy that we heard from earlier, Marquez Watson-Trent, Deshaun Singleton, guys like that are having to make the play and get guys to the ground. Coach Rule was very complimentary of Singleton's tackling to this point of the year, but it's going to be a group effort in that regard. And I think, too, you know, ultimately Nebraska wants to have Underwood beat him with their arm, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's kind of what we all want to have happen. But I mean,
he's just a 57% completion percentage guy, too. So you have to like that, at least on paper, right, with how Nebraska's secondaries played. And I get it. There'll be a step up in competition, but they faced a good duo in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So don't apologize for that. And Michigan's got to prove that they can get busy outside the numbers.
Give them a reason to have to go away from the run game.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Okay, let's talk Nebraska's side of things. We really haven't talked about Nebraska's O-line against Michigan's D-line very much here today. And I think ultimately we talked about that 14 Miami game in the last segment. I don't think EJ's toting it 35 times like Amir did in that game. But making life easy on Nebraska is going to make them a two-way threat, running the ball and throwing the ball, because one, we know the options that Dylan has to throw to and the amount of pressure packages that they run. But when you're blitzing, that's going to leave you susceptible to the run game if you can get it going.
Yeah, and I think Michigan's going to have to be choosy with that because, you know, Nebraska runs duo a lot the same as Michigan does, and they get to it a variety of ways. And I really like play action today for Nebraska, especially if Dillon can get time. You get the good hard run action, and I could see some guys coming open. The middle portion of the field, 15 yards from the line of scrimmage between the hashes, I think Nebraska's going to have a pretty good opportunity to make some hay.
You mentioned this earlier in the show, and I think it's definitely worth bringing up again, and that's Nebraska's tight ends, not only in the receiving game, but the blocking game today. You know, Lindenmeyer and Harburg and everybody else coming on, you know, on those downhill kick-out blocks, especially the way Michigan lines up with those guys so wide.
And if Michigan wants to get lighter and quicker and play guys like Barham up front, you know, they moved him from a second-level guy to playing the rush end, and he's a little undersized guy at just like 240. Like, if they want to use him as their fourth defensive lineman, as an edge run fitter, I think Nebraska's got to make him pay.
And there's another thing I wanted to bring up here today that we haven't talked about yet, and you've been alluding to this on the broadcast all year when it comes to Dillon running. You have to do it enough to keep them honest. And I'm assuming you said that for games like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be 2 or 3 opportunities to move the sticks and get first downs with his legs. How good can he be at getting it?
And taking care of his body when that's the case.
100%.
Because these guys, I don't want to say they're head hunting, but they want to clean your clock.
They come with bad intentions. And I think Nebraska understands that, and as does Dillon too. So get while the getting's good and then get down.
What is your concern level about Nebraska's lack of in-game reps, punting, and field goal units the last couple of weeks?
Well, I hope that, so on paper, again, I love the matchup. I think Nebraska can clearly make some hay in special teams, and they're going to have to dust old Arch off. And it'll be in front of a fun environment, too, so hopefully he can embrace that. But in terms of place kicking and the return game, I think Nebraska should be just fine.
Okay, let's talk about keys for this one. Nebraska wins if what?
So I think the finishing drive rate has to be really good. When you cross the 40-yard line and you get yourself in position where you can get points, make sure you're operating at a high efficiency in the red zone. You said it kind of off air. I like it. You're interested in 7s and not 3s. Although I don't think this is a game where there's going to be a ton of points. I do think red zone efficiency is ultimately going to matter.
Yeah, because there might only be 2 or 3 chances to get those. And I think there are 3 or 4 drives last week, you know, getting the 3 on the first drive. There's moments that have happened where I know Dana Holgorsen wants that to be a lot more efficient in that side of the field.
And then the other one, I think it's fairly obvious, but you need to keep an eye on it. How's Nebraska's tackling? They'll have some opportunities for some havoc plays where I think they can take advantage of is a little too strong a word, but I do think Michigan's offensive line is a bit of work in progress. And we've seen Nebraska come clean and free a few times this year. When you get a chance for havoc plays to get Michigan behind the sticks, get those guys to the ground.
I think my biggest one, too, is Underwood's going to give Nebraska 1 or 2 chances to make plays today. Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. Had a couple ill-advised ones against Central Michigan that he got away with.
Don't let him get away with them. Make those plays hurt, because that's how you turn a field position game, getting the ball on their 30-yard line and stealing some points in this one, because, you know, everything's going to come down to, yes, the last couple of drives, but putting yourself in a situation where you're not thinking back to that interception you got in the second quarter, or that drive early in the third quarter where, Nebraska really should have got points or more points. That's a big one for me today, because I'm convinced that there's going to be a couple of plays here and there, either just with poor execution, bad reads, whatever the case may be. He's going to give Nebraska's secondary a chance to get a couple today.
Absolutely. Again, we referenced the 57% completion percentage. You can't let that be good enough to beat you today.
What's the concern level with his legs?
So I think it's there. I still think he's a bit of a reluctant runner. So until he fully embraces that, I think that's the thing. But you want the game within the game when it comes to his legs. When he's outside the pocket, he's much more apt to take off than when he climbs the pocket and pushes up the middle.
Which is what Sorsby did.
Right, because I think Underwood wants to still throw the ball when he climbs the pocket, but once he gets on the edges, I think that's when he's more comfortable pulling it down and running.
You mentioned Michigan's tight ends a lot, and for good reason. On the outside, though, what type of test is going to be in front of Nebraska's corners, because they've passed with flying colors in all three of those areas, challenges to this point?
Yeah, I think, they got to start with Samaj Morgan. I mean, that's the guy that I think typically gets the first touches when they throw the football. I mean, I'd like to see what the rate is. I think he's the first catch guy almost every game when there's a ball thrown from Michigan. So find Morgan and make sure that you don't let them get vertical on you. Goodwin's the guy that can stretch the field on you. Don't let him get behind you. But, again, I think the whole key is when he puts that thing in harm's way, he hasn't been overly accurate. You got to make him pay.
Yeah, it's going to be you said it. The cat and mouse coaching wise today is going to be really interesting.
High level coordinators.
Those first 3 to 4 drives, when you have your plan, and then what adjustments you make off that plan, I think is going to be, whether Nebraska wins or loses, it's going to be a big part of our conversation next week.
Chip Lindsey versus John Butler, and Wink Martindale against Dana Holgerson. Some quality coordinators.
It's going to be fun. The environment's going to be great. Certainly, we've talked about it really all show. Walking in here, how many people are already gearing up for what's to be a lot of eyeballs here on national television with Nebraska and Michigan. That's going to wrap things up here for our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show this afternoon. Really appreciate everybody hanging with us here and getting our broadcast started. Coming up next, countdown to kickoff. Kyle Crooks has you for the next hour as we creep closer to kick between the Huskers and the Wolverines. My thanks to everyone that was a part of this one. Thanks to Jess for handling our Cornhusker conversation again, Josh Hilkeman, Camden Cohn, Russ Brown, the whole gang here today. And my biggest thanks to my partner in crime, Damon Benning, for helping us steer this one for the next 2 hours. We'll rejoin you for our 5th quarter show, hopefully talking about a Husker victory. But until then, countdown to kickoff is next. It's Nebraska and Michigan at Memorial Stadium here in just a little while. We'll talk to you after the game.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Nebraska football fans know what it takes to be the best. You've got to handle the heat, power through the cold, read the pressure. Same goes for the techs at John Henry's. They're trusted to perform when it's all on the line. When winter's driving hard and your furnace fumbles. When your thermostat is in the red zone. When the power goes out before the final whistle. Make the easy call.
Call 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing. Heating and air.
And electrical.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. A porch swing or a skyline view. Work that matters and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave.
Hey there.
Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always